He glanced around to make sure no one was watching. Then he quietly unlocked Daniel's private office with a duplicate key. Mrs. Grace's expression instantly changed. Richard wasn't looking for family photographs. He was heading straight toward the company safe. And what he pulled from inside would expose a betrayal far greater than anyone in the mansion could have imagined.
It worked, Bennett.
The old fool believes the company is finished.
Do you have the documents?
I've got everything. When the transfer is complete, the Morgan family will never recover.
Mrs. Grace's eyes narrowed. She immediately pressed the small emergency button hidden beneath her apron. Miles away, the head of security received the silent signal. The trap had finally caught its biggest prey. The following morning, the mansion felt unusually cold. Servants whispered in corners. Relatives avoided Daniel completely. Even long-time business associates who once begged for his attention suddenly acted as though they had never known him. Emily noticed every painful moment. At breakfast, Daniel sat alone. No one joined him. Victoria deliberately chose another table. Richard walked past without saying a word. Emily carried her plate across the dining room and sat beside Daniel. "I'm still your breakfast partner." Daniel managed a faint smile. "You don't have to do this." "I know. I want to." Across the room, Victoria shook her head. "She's still pretending." Richard laughed. "Give her another day." Emily heard them. She simply squeezed Daniel's hand beneath the table. "I'm not going anywhere." Later that afternoon, Mrs. Grace was cleaning the grand staircase when she deliberately lost her balance. She cried out as the bucket slipped from her hands. Emily turned instantly. "Mrs. Grace." She rushed across the hallway and caught the elderly woman before she could hit the floor. "Oh no, are you hurt?" "My ankle," the old woman whispered. Emily gently helped her onto a nearby chair. "I'll call a doctor." Before she could move, Victoria spoke. "A doctor? For a maid?" Emily stared at her in disbelief. "She's injured." Victoria shrugged. "Give her painkillers and let her rest." Emily's voice became firmer. "No." Victoria folded her arms. "Are you planning to spend thousands treating every servant?" Emily looked her straight in the eyes. "If that's what it takes to help someone in pain, yes." The hallway fell silent. Mrs. Grace looked at Emily with eyes full of emotion. No one had defended her this fiercely in decades. Not even when she truly was a billionaire. That evening, Daniel found Emily sitting alone on the garden bench. "You've been quiet." She smiled softly. "I've been thinking. About leaving." Emily laughed. "You really don't know me. I just don't want you suffering because of me." She reached for his hand. "When I was 10 years old, my father lost his business." Daniel listened quietly. One week, people called him sir. The next week, they crossed the street to avoid him. Daniel lowered his eyes. "My mother told me something I'll never forget." "What was it?" She said, "Money rents people's attention. Character earns their loyalty." Daniel smiled through watery eyes. "I wish she could meet you." Emily looked toward the mansion. "I think she'd like Mrs. Grace." Daniel almost laughed. "I think she would too." Hidden behind the balcony curtains, Eleanor wiped another tear from her cheek. Every passing hour made this decision easier. Emily wasn't pretending. She simply had a good heart. The wedding day finally arrived. Unlike the extravagant celebration everyone had once expected, the ceremony was simple. Small white flowers decorated the aisle. A modest piano played softly. Many wealthy guests had cancelled. The ballroom looked half empty. Whispers spread through the crowd. She should have left him. She's making the biggest mistake of her life. Imagine marrying a bankrupt billionaire. Emily heard every cruel comment. She ignored them all. The officiant smiled warmly. We are gathered here today. Just before he could continue, the grand doors slowly opened. Mrs. Grace entered the ballroom wearing the same faded maid's uniform she had worn every day. Victoria frowned. What is she doing here? Richard rolled his eyes. Someone remove her. Instead, Mrs. Grace continued walking toward the altar. Every guest watched in confusion. She stopped beside Daniel. Then, she slowly removed her grey wig. Gasps echoed through the room. Next came the oversized glasses. Then the plain uniform. Beneath it was an elegant ivory gown. Diamond earrings sparkled beneath the lights. The elderly maid stood tall. Confident. Powerful. Unrecognizable. Daniel smiled proudly. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the true owner of this mansion. My mother, Eleanor Morgan. Silence consumed the ballroom. Victoria's face lost all color. Richard staggered backward. Several guests nearly dropped their phones. Emily stood frozen. Her eyes filled with tears. Mrs. Grace. The woman she had laughed with. Cooked beside. Protected. Cried with. Was Daniel's mother all along. Eleanor walked toward Emily. I'm sorry for deceiving you. Emily shook her head. You don't have to apologize. You were testing me. I understand. Eleanor smiled. No. You don't. She turned toward the giant screen behind the stage. Please watch. The lights dimmed. Video after video appeared. Victoria insulting Mrs. Grace. Richard stealing confidential documents. Employees accepting bribes. Relatives mocking Daniel after the fake bankruptcy. Then, the videos changed. Emily helping carry laundry. Emily giving away her bracelet to help the gardener's daughter. Emily defending every servant. Emily offering to pay Mrs. Grace's salary. Emily telling Daniel, "You are my home." By the time the final clip ended, many guests were crying. Eleanor faced the crowd. The bankruptcy. She smiled. Never happened. A collective gasp swept through the ballroom. Our company never lost a single dollar. The only thing that collapsed. She looked directly at the relatives. Was the character of those who claimed to love this family. Security officers entered immediately. Richard attempted to run. They stopped him before he reached the door. The evidence against you has already been handed to the authorities. Richard's shoulders slumped. Victoria burst into tears. Eleanor, please. Eleanor calmly shook her head. You only respected me when you believed I had power. She turned toward Emily. But she respected me when she believed I had nothing. She gently took Emily's trembling hands. For years, I searched for a woman worthy of my son's fortune. She smiled through tears. Instead, I found a woman worthy of my son's heart. She removed the treasured Morgan family heirloom ring from a velvet box. Then, before the astonished guest, Eleanor placed it into Emily's hands. Welcome to the Morgan family. Thunderous applause filled the ballroom. Daniel embraced Emily tightly. Neither of them could hold back their tears. Months later, Daniel and Emily established a foundation that provided financial support, healthcare, and education for domestic workers, gardeners, cleaners, and elderly caregivers across the country. As for Eleanor, she finally retired with peace in her heart. She had spent years building a fortune. But the greatest treasure she ever discovered wasn't hidden in a bank account. It was hidden in the kindness of a woman who believed an old maid deserved love, dignity, and respect. Because true wealth is never measured by what you own. It is measured by how you treat people who have nothing to offer you in return. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next inspiring story. And tell us in the comments, if you were Emily, would you have treated Mrs. Grace the same way before knowing who she really was?